Say hi. 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 So, I'm going to be talking about my experience with IVF. Before I get started, I just want to say real quick that I've already filmed a version of this for my Instagram stories, and then a friend of mine told me that I should put it on YouTube, so now I'm refilming it horizontally. I might also put it on IGTV, so it's gonna get cropped vertically. So basically there's like a lot going on here. My point for saying all that is just that if it seems at all rehearsed or scripted, it's because I've already done a version of this and I have notes in front of me to make sure that I don't miss any of the important points from the first video, which I filmed off the cuff in my car in the parking lot of the fertility clinic after my first appointment. Moving forward, all of my videos are going to be done like this though, so they should feel a lot more natural. Anyway, so before we dive right on in, I also just want to give a general disclaimer. I am not trying to have a baby. I did not specify that on my Instagram stories, and that caused a lot of confusion. I got a lot of messages like, oh my God, you're trying to have a baby? And no, I'm not. And I never will, and that's kind of the point, and that's why I'm doing this. So, that being said, let's get started. I just want to touch base a little bit on what IVF is. I'm assuming that if you came here, if you found this video on YouTube, you probably already know, because my guess is that you were searching for videos on IVF, but if you're finding this on IGTV, you might not know. So IVF is in vitro fertilization. It's a fertility treatment that is most often used for people who are having trouble conceiving naturally for whatever reason. I'm only doing the first half of IVF, hello, which is the egg retrieval and freezing. So a little bit of background about why I'm deciding to do this is because I never want to be pregnant, ever. It's never something that I've ever wanted to do. You know, as a kid, I thought, well, when I grow up, I'll want it. It's a desire I'll grow into, and I'm now grown up, and I still don't want to do it. So, I'm not going to. And when my sister was pregnant with my nephew, she made me feel her belly, and I felt him kick and move, and it totally freaked me out. I had nightmares for a week, and I should specify that I was 20 years old. So as an adult, pregnancy has always freaked me out. And when I say freaked out, I don't just mean like it's something I'm scared of and have to overcome that fear. I mean like I have a visceral, disgusted reaction to being pregnant. Which, I mean, that's not everyone's experience, and that's fine. It's not most people's experience, and that's fine. My experience is fine too. They're all valid. Which is why I think it's really important to be filming this and telling this story and putting it out in public, because I think that it's really important to normalize conversations around every route towards family planning, because there's tons of different ways to get there. So with the knowledge that I'm never going to want to be pregnant, I have been talking for a few years now about like knowing that I want to adopt, and that's still something that I want to do, but recently it's becoming more important to me to not lose the option of a biological child. So enter egg retrieval, and someday I will hire a gestational carrier, which is what I legally have to call the person who will carry my future child. We would mostly refer to them, like in pop culture, they're referred to as surrogates, and that's not actually legally correct, at least not in Arizona where I am. So henceforth in this video, I will be referring to that person and all future videos as a gestational carrier. Knowing that I'm going to eventually have a gestational carrier, you know, I'm gonna have to go through this process anyway. And right now, I'm working from home. I'm not in school. This is like the one time in my life where I can go through this process and it's not gonna really hinder me or get in the way of my responsibilities. And this is a process. Like, you have to shoot yourself up with hormones every day for weeks, and you're just miserable and irritable and uncomfortable, and this would absolutely like get in the way of my life later down the line. And there are women who do that, and they are amazing. It's not, you know, like it's pretty incredible to me anyway. I feel like it would be impossible for me, but I feel like this is the one time in my life where it's gonna have the least impact on how I live my life. So, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, or hopefully towards the end of a pandemic, and I can just sit at home and do my work on the couch in my pajamas like I am today. So I think we hear a lot about people who use gestational carriers for a number of reasons, like if they aren't able to sustain a pregnancy themselves, or being pregnant could cause gender dysphoria, or any number of reasons. But I feel like we never talk about or hear about people who use gestational carriers because they just don't want to be pregnant themselves. Which I'm a cisgender woman with a functioning uterus, and I could easily carry a pregnancy if I wanted to. I just don't want to, and that's valid. That is a valid reason to not be pregnant and to hire a gestational carrier to be pregnant for me. And that's, you know, I think it's really important to be talking about this, because when I first put this story on Instagram, I got a lot of messages from people like, I had no idea this was an option. I would love to do this. I don't want to be pregnant, but I do want my own kids. Like, I had no idea I could do it this way. So I think like that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I want this to be part of the fertility, family planning, parenthood conversation. A few days ago, I had my first in-person appointment at the fertility clinic. I had a phone appointment when I was still back in New York, but you know, I just got out here and I went in for my appointment with the doctor, and she did an ultrasound, and I got to see my ovaries and my follicles, which was really, really cool. I have never seen that before, so that was kind of awesome. And then they drew a bunch of blood to do a bunch of testing. They took 13 vials of blood, which is the most that I've ever had taken in one sitting before. That was a lot. And then, so they're gonna do a whole bunch of genetic testing and STD testing, and pretty much just make sure like that I'm good to go. They're gonna check to see if I'm immune to the chickenpox, which I'm really excited to see, because when I had the chickenpox as a kid, it was a really mild case, and so I've always been afraid that it's gonna come back like really bad as an adult. So I'm excited to get that result back. After the in-person appointment, they were just waiting for me to notify them when my period started, so they could put me on birth control, to just sort of like put me in a holding pattern until they were ready to put me on the hormones to get me ready for the retrieval. And my period just started a couple days ago, so today they gave me the prescription today, and I'm gonna go pick up the birth control. So we're on our way. Yeah, I'm excited. I like, this is gonna be, if nothing else, I mean, you know, someday it will be a child, but for right now, if nothing else, like, this is really just gonna be an experience. So another thing that I think is really, really important that I mention is that IVF is very expensive, and it is not a procedure that is accessible to everyone. I am extremely lucky that my parents are willing to pay for their future grandchild. Like, I have a lot of privilege in that regard, that I'm covered for this procedure. Also, as far as I know, IVF is only covered by insurance when it's medically necessary. I think that's another reason why it's really important to be having this conversation publicly, because I think that the more people who realize that IVF can be completely elective without needing a medical reason to do it, the more people who could want this, and then the more people who are talking about it, and then the actual chance we could have of it becoming more affordable, more accessible, and also covered by more insurance plans if there's demand for it. And if people are doing this often enough, then, because now it's just kind of like no one's doing this for the elective purpose. Basically, just to kind of like, you know, recap, I'm not having a baby. I am freezing my eggs to someday have someone else carry it. And it is a huge privilege that I am able to do this, and it is not accessible to everyone, and I do acknowledge that. So until next time, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoy following along on this journey with me that I'm excited to be taking. Okay.